Good morning. Welcome to the Citizens Club, Springfield. We're very, very glad that you're all here, and I know there are a lot of new faces, and I know why you're here, and I just hope that after you see what we do, that you'll come back next month. We're very glad that you're here. I'm Joyce Nardulli. I'm the president of the Citizens Club. Our first order of business is to thank WMAY, WUIS, which is NPR, and the Audio and Visual Department of the Mayor's Office, and today's coffee sponsors, Stephen and Lisa Stone. So thank you very much for all that you do for us. In fact, we couldn't do what we're doing without each of you. So as you know, the attendance here at the Citizens Club is free, but if you'd like to support our work, annual dues are $30 to become a member, and coffee sponsorship is $100. And I think we have those available for 2025. So see Chris Atchison in the back. He's our treasurer if you have any questions or if you'd like to join our mission for a more informed community. We're here to help you better understand what's happening around us and not to tell you what to think. And the ideas and opinions expressed here today are not necessarily the ideas or opinions of the Citizens Club. So this morning we'll discuss summer learning in Springfield, bridging opportunity gaps, with three people who have excellent insights into the learning gaps statewide and within District 186, as seen on the Illinois report card scores. Our panel includes Molly Berendt, founder and chief executive officer of Compass for Kids, which is a local 501c3 nonprofit organization whose mission is to provide academic and social and emotional support to empower and the underserved children and their families. Compass for Kids was recently named the Engage Every Student Program Champion by the U.S. Department of Education for their Camp Compass Summer Learning Program. Compass for Kids was one of only 13 organizations in the whole country and the only recipient in Illinois to receive this national award. Jennifer Gill is the superintendent of School District 186, which serves 13,000 students in our city. She earned her BS degree from Eastern Illinois University and her master's in educational administration from UIS. Jennifer taught in the Springfield schools before becoming a district office administrator, and during her tenure, McLernan earned an Improving School Award from the Illinois State Board of Education for significant achievement gains in a high-poverty school setting. Terrance Jordan is the Director of School Leadership and Family Community Engagement at District 186. Terrance graduated magna cum laude from Mississippi Valley State University with a BS degree in health, physical ed, and recreation. He earned his teaching certificate and master's degree in educational leadership from UIS Springfield. Terrance has served District 186 for 23 years, first as a kindergarten assistant and then permanent substitute teacher, library media specialist, parent educator, teacher, summer school coordinator, guidance dean, an elementary principal, and received the Horace Mann Rising Star Teacher Award in 2011 and the Horace Mann Administrator of the Year Award in 2018. So we have some real talent for you this morning. Their resumes, by the way, are much, much longer, but the program would be over if I read all that to you. Finally, our moderator is the past president of this organization and currently chairs our program committee. He is the retired president of the United Way, and John Kelker is going to come up and tell us about the four individuals who are here, but also I would just like to say that he was the past president of the United Way, and he worked there from 96 to 2022. He has a bachelor's degree in psychology from McMurray College. So all four of these people have many achievements and a lot of volunteer work under their belts. So we are ready to go. John, if you want to come take it away.
Thank you, Joyce. It certainly is a pleasure, as they were planning this, for them to ask me to be the moderator. There's not a lot for me to do this morning, but it is a pleasure to introduce three friends of mine. I mean, I have worked very closely with them while I was at United Way, and I'm still glad to hear the success that Compass for Kids is having. Three people that care deeply, like I do, about educating our young people to make their futures as successful as possible. I want you to join me in welcoming Molly Terrance and Jennifer, real quick with a handshake. They have a full program for us, but we will, as always, have questions, so I'll join you back here again when the three of them are finished. Again, welcome, my friends.
Thank you, John. All right, good morning, everybody. Today, we are going to be talking about summer learning loss. Summer learning loss is a phenomenon that all children experience because they are not learning over the summer. However, summer learning loss disproportionately impacts low-income children. So while all children lose about 2 months of math skills every summer, low-income children lose an additional 2 to 3 months of reading skills because of a lack of opportunities over the summer. Let me define the achievement gap. This is a disparity between groups that occurs when one group outperforms another group. And this can be based on race, ethnicity, gender, or socioeconomic status. Summer learning loss is the #1 contributor to the achievement gap. All right, so we have a chart that you can see. This is specifically on reading achievement. And what this shows is that while there is an achievement gap, it's actually visible as early as 18 months of age. So kids are starting kindergarten and there is already an achievement gap. But then kids who are from low-income families are learning at the same rate from their teachers during the school year. But it's the differences in summer learning that widens the gap. Every single summer, that learning loss is cumulative. So by the end of 5th grade, low-income kids are 2.5 to 3 years behind their middle and high-income peers. This achievement gap continues to widen over time. By 9th grade, the research shows that 2/3 of the achievement gap can specifically be attributed to the differences in summer learning opportunities. It's impossible to close that gap without addressing what happens in the summers. The pandemic exacerbated existing achievement gaps. All right? Students lost more than half a year of learning. So these achievement gaps are now wider. So while some loss has been recovered, investments in academic recovery are still needed. The gap between low-income students and high-income students already was huge before the pandemic, and now it's even bigger. Because low-income students had further to catch up, the recovery post-pandemic has been uneven. So let me be clear. While the federal pandemic funding has ended, academic recovery is still needed for students. We don't want the inequality to get baked in. In addition to the academic achievement gap, we also want to define for you what the opportunity gap is. This is when the arbitrary circumstances, such as the family you are born into, determines the opportunities that you have in life to be able to reach your full potential. So in addition to addressing achievement gaps, we at Compass for Kids address opportunity gaps. Not all of you might know the need that exists in the Springfield community. Looking at all of the students who participate in District 186 connected summer learning programs, it's about 2,500 kids who were able to participate this past summer. and that's out of the nearly 13,000 students in 186. So all of the summer programs together, we were able to serve about 19% of students this past summer. And that was thanks to, in part, to the ESSER funding from the federal government that is now gone. So that 19% number will be greatly reduced. Why don't more kids participate in summer learning? Cost is the primary barrier to summer learning participation. In a recent Gallup survey, it was found that participation notably varies by income. So while 55% of families surveyed had their children in a structured summer program in 2023, only 38% of low-income children were able to participate in summer programs, whereas 67% of higher-income children were able to participate in summer programs. Almost half of parents had to limit or forego summer opportunities for their children because of the cost. All right, so now I'm going to move into specifically talking about Camp Compass, which is our summer learning program that began back in 2013. The primary goals of Camp Compass are to prevent this summer learning loss and to eventually close the achievement gaps and opportunity gaps that exist between low-income kids and their middle and high-income peers. We are doing this in a program that is infusing social-emotional learning, that is creating a safe and supportive environment where children are looked at as whole people. And we are doing this in an engaging, interactive, fun, camp-like experience where kids want to attend every single day. Who does Camp Compass serve, you might be wondering? So all of the kids who get to attend Camp Compass are referred by District 186. So we are able to communicate to each school the population of children that we are trying to prioritize, and then each school gets to identify and refer children to Camp Compass. So all of the children in Camp Compass are from low-income households, and then additionally, there is another factor for eligibility, such as they might be experiencing homelessness, they might be in the foster care system, a teacher might suspect abuse or neglect, the kids in the family might be experiencing food insecurity, the kids might be academically behind and at risk of needing to be retained in their grade. Or potentially they have a parent who's incarcerated or deceased. So we really trust the teachers, the social workers, the administrators, the people at the schools. They know their kids best, and they can choose who needs to go to Camp Compass. Because there are limited spots, we have to ensure that the kids in our community who need this opportunity the most get to attend. All right, so like I said before, Camp Compass started back in 2013. It is a 5 to 6 week program that takes place Monday through Friday from about 8:30 to 3:30, so based off of a school day. As of 2019, Camp Compass became the official elementary summer learning provider for District 186. Mornings at Camp Compass are focused on academics. So every child receives 3 hours of academic instruction by a certified District 186 teacher. Approximately an hour and a half of that is literacy, and an hour and a half of that is math. The curriculum is planned by District 186 literacy and math coaches, and our content is aligned to what goes on in the school year, as well as to state standards. Our academic component is extremely strong and has been since the inception of Camp Compass in 2013. In addition to academics, Camp Compass provides opportunities, and those look like enrichment activities. Those look like field trips. Those look like bringing in the community through our many, many community partners. So this is where kids get to experience the first time that they might have been to the Abraham Lincoln Presidential Library and Museum, or Kidsium, or Memorial, or the first time they got to tour Lincoln's home. We want all children to feel connected to the Springfield community and know that they belong here. In addition to the academics and the enrichment, at Camp Compass, we are able to provide breakfast and lunch through District 186 and their access to the Federal Summer Food Service Program. We also provide an afternoon snack and non-perishable meals for every child for over the weekend in case they might not otherwise have food after lunchtime on Friday until breakfast on Monday. Transportation is also provided. We contract with First Student so that every single child is able to get picked up by a bus and make it to Camp Compass and taken home so that transportation is not a barrier to participation. Additionally, all needed supplies are always provided. So the camp is free to participants, transportation's provided, meals are provided, and any single thing a child might need to fully participate in each and every experience is provided. So for example, when we go swimming, if you don't have a swimsuit, we give you a swimsuit in your size. Camp Compass is funded through a mix of in-kind support from District 186, financial support from District 186, United Way of Central Illinois, and other private funders such as the Community Foundation for the Land of Lincoln, the American Business Club, Rotary Clubs, many, many grants, and private individuals. All right, you all have an infographic in front of you, hopefully. I'm just going to touch on some stats from our most recent summer at Camp Compass. So Camp Compass 2024 was our largest ever. We were able to serve 924 campers across 7 locations, which are all District 186 elementary schools. So look at that infographic. I'm just going to pull out a couple highlights. In 2024, 89% of campers improved or maintained their math skills. So instead of experiencing those months of learning loss, instead, 89% of kids were improving over the summer. 96% of the campers improved or maintained in their reading skills. So again, instead of losing ground over the summer as they otherwise would have, they're gaining ground over the summer. And then in their social and emotional skills, which is just as important as academics, we saw 97.7% of participants improve. And then to address food insecurity, you can see that over 45,000 meals were provided this past summer between breakfast, lunch, and then those weekend meals that I mentioned through our backpack feeding program. All right, just to hit this point home a little bit, the purpose of Camp Compass is multifold. It's not just the academic intervention. The opportunities are equally important. Those field trips, the enrichment, the community partners, that helps make this a camp-like experience where we have engaged and enthusiastic campers who are excited to wake up in the mornings and catch the bus and go to Camp Compass. So some of those community partners, like I mentioned before, Kidsium, the Springfield Police Department, Memorial Wellness Center. We usually have about 75 community partners a year, so I can't list them all, but we are very, very much connected to the community and try to bring in the community to our kids and then take the kids to the community as much as we possibly can. And then one more thing before I hand over the microphone. Joyce mentioned this, but just to reiterate, this past summer, Camp Compass was selected as one of the Engage Every Student program champions by the U.S. Department of Education. We are the only one recognized in the entire state of Illinois and one of 13 in the country. So you can have confidence that there is a high quality effective program that we are doing as a collaborative community effort. And this is a photo of me with the U.S. Secretary of Education, Dr. Miguel Cardona. He wants all summer programs in the entire country to be modeled after programs like Camp Compass. All right, now I'm going to hand things over to Superintendent Jennifer Gill. She is an incredible visionary leader. It's through her leadership that she had the foresight to partner with a community-based organization like Compass for Kids, because we can achieve greater things working together than we could ever achieve on our own. Let's give it up for Jennifer.
Well, thank you, Molly. I think I should throw that right back over there to her, because her vision for Camp Compass to begin with started in just a seed in your mind, and lots of partners across our community see the wealth that you bring to our community. So thank you, and your team. They're pretty amazing. So I wanted to speak to the historical context of summer school. Summer school used to be, I don't know, maybe dreaded, right? If you got asked to go to summer school, it wasn't maybe the best of connotation about your academic career the year before, or your attendance, or something of that nature. And we really wanted to change that, because all kids need summer learning experiences, and some families have barriers that don't allow them to go out and find those opportunities in our community that maybe your parents did for you, or have a membership to a pool, or all of the things that you think about when you align learning and summer together. So we had a summer school program that we ran using Title I funds. It was very small. And we have 24 elementary schools, 5 middle schools, and 3 comprehensive high schools, not to even mention alternative pre-K and adult ed. So with all of those things involved, we knew we needed to think differently for our students, but we were just like, how do we do this? How do we break away from a deficit model of summer school, where we're saying you have to come, to a vision of you have the opportunity to attend these great programs. So we had a program going on, mainly for our students that were experiencing homelessness. It was smaller, but really getting some traction, really doing some amazing things in our community where students were getting experiential learning as well as academic learning. And at the same time, I had my teachers that were aligned to do summer school that were addressing the achievement gains or loss of achievement throughout a school year, and doing so in such a small fashion, we really weren't chipping away at the overall concern. So joining forces seemed to be really an awesome way to do this. So the two things that we could do together was I could provide qualified certified teachers who had a lot of important training and professional development under their belts to provide specific instruction for students that meets their needs. Coupled with all the amazing things that they were doing for experiential learning, we could provide assessment tools for formative and summative. We could help identify students who needed it beyond just homelessness, but for all of those other host of reasons that she mentioned. So it was a joy to us to bring these two together. It didn't come without its problems on the front end. We had to work through teacher contract, teacher pay versus summer pay, and all of those things. But our union came to the table and worked right beside us, because it is so important that we have these opportunities. So pre-pandemic, we were running, did we get up to 2 sites pre-pandemic? I forgot to ask that. Yeah, see, I have like PTSD, everything before COVID and everything after COVID. And we wanted to grow. So when we received the federal funding, which was such a blessing, we also knew it would end. And it's a very hard thing to build something up and see a vision that you needed for we call it just right reading, so it's just right time in life to have these programs, but also know that it's not time to end them. And what can we do to really be robust in our summer programming, but still be here serving our students? The pandemic was, as I say, no joke. It was something that was put in our laps overnight. I still remember Friday, March 13th, so it was Friday the 13th, shutting down schools. That's not something you get trained for. There's no book for that. It was scary. We were scared for our own families, just like everybody else in the community. For almost a full semester, that second semester of that year of 2020, students did not learn at the same level. Our teachers were ramping up their understanding of e-learning. We were ramping up our distribution of technology and Wi-Fi service. We were trying to find families who may have gone and doubled up with somebody else during that time. It was a really stressful moment in the educational life of any district in the country. And then overnight, you're teaching in a new platform in a new way. Some families embraced it, and it was very easy for them. They had good wherewithal with technology, the right setting in their homes, but many families, and we got a glimpse into every family's home when you're doing e-learning. They were crammed at one table, multiple students trying to learn, trying to grab the Wi-Fi, and being kids and families, just like we all have to deal with, where we're arguing a bit and trying to find out where the next food meal, to the point where many of us were out passing out milk and food right out of the back of school buses, trying to get kids fed during that time. So the historical context is something that I wanted you to hear so that we could really move forward. In addition, we had to talk about, how we funded those programs. And I mentioned ESSER being a blessing. Over the life of ESSER, $190 billion were given through the federal government out to the schools across the country. Of course, that was based on a formula of your low income status, your number of students, and it's really the single largest federal investment in public education that our country has ever had. So for a fleeting moment, we had enough money to serve our kids that are the same kids after the pandemic that they were before. I was blessed to have those years, but now I'm facing a pretty big challenge in that loss of funding through ESSER. I wanted to give you just an overview of what we got during that time. So there's 3 phases, so it's a real quick explanation, but the federal funding that went just for Camp Compass during that time was $8.5 million between 2020 and 2024. We were able to hire teachers, grow it to 7 different programs, add that very important transportation, which by the way is really expensive. About over $450,000 went to just transportation alone. We were able to partner with our community eligibility food program, make sure our summer feeding were in each of those schools as we discussed. In total, with some supplies added in, for all of our summer programs, Molly nicely mentioned that there's many others that are very upset and struggling in our community right now as well. About $13.8 million out of that funding was just for summer learning loss in the programs we created. The 3 phases, we had CARES. The first phase was about 7.8. That was so very narrowly focused on PPE, so masks and everything you needed. We bought tests, we had clinics for COVID vaccines, all of those things. We had e-learning, purchasing technology so that students could learn at home, and anything and everything we could do for air filtration and all of those things in our schools. The second round of ESSER 2 was about $30.8 million. It also had all of those stipulations, but summer learning loss became a very large focus. And we were able to purchase extra nurses as we came back to school, CNAs across the district to help with COVID testing that was required by law. We had to test every teacher. It was just a lot of work that had to go in, and all of that came out of that money. Then we had ESSER 3, which was called ARP ESSER, because they like to do all of the acronyms in the world. And that was $69 million, and that went through this last September of '24. So for a total, about $107 million. That sounds like, why don't you still have this all figured out? It can't be expended for anything salary-based. We couldn't bank it and pay for salary. Every single dime had to be expended and spent before that September date. We did purchase a lot of supplies up front. We've got, that supply thing won't be as big of a deal this year because we did do as much pre-purchasing as we could. But when you're talking about people or things like air filtration systems that go away after a time, there's always going to be that backlash of we used to have this and now we don't. The problem with it being for 4 years is that we got real used to it, and I knew it wasn't sustainable. We know that the feds are not going to just dish out $107 million every 4 years. We know that that's a stressor that we have in our lives, but we couldn't not do this for our students who needed us so greatly during that time to regain that loss that they felt. And just to be out in the community, we hadn't been out in the community for over 2 years. The Kidseum hadn't opened its doors. And so when they opened it up, we wanted to be there for our community to get our kids back and participating. So, our dream is to continue where we were. We know we may not get there, but our dream is one where every student, no matter your income level or any other barrier you face, and we do run summer learning for our students with special needs as well. And we know that that is something that is so very important in our community, that every student has an opportunity throughout the summer to have fun, to enjoy our community, but also to learn and not lose that learning gap. All right. Okay, I think I'm going to turn it over to you, Terrance.
All right, so if you notice, we're talking about Camp Compass, but we also offer and supported a lot of other programs in the community. We had the YMCA program, we partnered with Kids Zim. Some of the programs that were cost-based, where parents had to pay, like Camp Invention, there was a pretty substantial cost that limited certain kids from being able to participate in those programs. So we used ESSER funding to pay for the programs. Some of those programs, like Camp Invention, they didn't offer transportation or meals. So we used ESSER funding to eliminate that barrier and provide transportation and meals. These programs range from pre-K, so we had students that were not even our students yet. We provided a summer program for them, all the way until high school. Some of the programs were for homeless families. We had a program, Rise and Shine, that we supported by the YMCA, that supported the homeless families. We provided transportation, we provided services. Within these programs, we had the academic piece. We had the social emotional piece. Some of the programs we partner with Memorial Behavioral Health to provide mental health services for kids. So there's a lot that goes into all of these programs. And just think about it. Those programs that I mentioned that were fee-based, they're going back to fee-based. We have our own program, like Scope. It's a cost associated with Scope, but we were able to enhance that program by using ESSER funding to provide those enrichment opportunities and field trips. So even the programs that were fee-based, we enhanced them using ESSER funding. So part of the programs, when I think about how many kids were served, we served almost 2,500 students. But that's just a part of the story. Look at the individuals that were employed as a result of the program. Bus drivers, kitchen workers, staff, teachers, speech language pathologists, mental health specialists. We provided a host of opportunities. And within those programs, we had ELL students, English language learners. We provided programs for students that were experiencing homelessness, that had students that have a disability. We covered every possible characteristic that we could possibly do by funding all of those programs and supporting all those programs. We even had credit recovery. We eliminated some transportation barriers with that. Students that wanted to get caught up. You know, the pandemic was a real issue where some kids got behind. So we utilized summer program to help those students get caught up so that they can graduate on time. So what's the impact? I know that you want to know. And the impact is huge. I want to talk about 3 specific impacts. One is the academics. Students were coming to school ahead of where they ended school the previous year. If that was the only thing, that would be great in itself, right? Because we talked about, Molly spent a lot of time talking about the learning loss. Students were coming to school ahead of where they ended school the previous year. Another impact is the socialization. Students were with their peers. I'm reminded of a story. We lost a student last year to gun violence. And I'm reminded of, when I think about summer programs and the impact that it has on students and socialization and supports, we still offered the same supports. We offered mental health services. We hired social workers. We had nurses. All those supports were embedded into our summer programming. I'm reminded of a student that was murdered, for lack of better words. His mother was so happy that she was able to bring his younger sibling to summer school. And we were able to provide the support and the counseling, and we had social workers there. And he was able to interact with his peers during this time. Also, the enrichments. So I talked about the academic, I talked about the socialization and supports, but the enrichment. Let me paint a picture for you. When I was a teacher, way back when, yeah. So I decided, I was a teacher in a low-income area, a low-income school. I decided, okay, I want to take my kids to the zoo. But I didn't want to take them just to Springfield Zoo. It's an awesome zoo, but I wanted to take them to a larger zoo. So I worked it out that we can go to St. Louis Zoo. Now, we rode a big yellow bus, yes, it was, we had to, yeah, I know, we didn't have the funds to charter the bus, so we worked it out. Parents got their kids there early, so we head to the zoo. Our kids saw the ocean when we passed the lake. They had never seen the lake before. Our kids saw cows. They were ecstatic. And I'm just sitting here blown away. When we finally got to St. Louis, you know, all the intersections and all the ramps and all that, they were just blown away. I could have turned around and came back. Just think about that. And you may be thinking, oh, that can't happen. That's not the case right now. That was long ago. But I want to read you this quote from one of the teachers. Students mentioned that they were glad we took a field trip to Shields because they never knew it was there. They also mentioned that they want to bring their parents back so that they can show them the Ferris wheel. It's not fair for our students not to know what's right here in our community. That's not fair. Things that we take for granted. I go to Shields all the time. I'm an avid fisherman. I buy my minerals there.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. But we have students right here in our community that are not experiencing our community. So that's the impact. The academics, the socialization, the supports that we provide for students during summer, and the enrichment activities. I always tell people that Springfield's a community that's rich with resources, but it's evident that not all people are taking advantage or know about these resources. We always want our students to have these dreams of being great, but sometimes we as a community and as the adults need to provide those dreams for the kids. And that is done through enrichment activities such as Camp Compass.
So to add on to your story, students become members of our community. And if they don't know more than just where they live, their few blocks, they also don't know all of the opportunities to grow and thrive in our community when they become employed, summer opportunities for employment. All of those things are so important. Quick story, I had a teacher that worked with me, and we went to a conference that the state board actually held in Chicago. On the train, on the way up there, the person who grew up here in town, went to UIS, wildly successful in her career, she leaned over to me and said, 2 quick things. I've never been on a train, and I've never been to Chicago. This was an educator in our community that grew up here and needed that outside support. So all of our kids grow up to be people that we work alongside, and just because they get a job in our organization doesn't mean that they've seen the world and that they've seen the things that we've been able to see. And it's an important thing to provide those during their elementary career when we see that gap. So our dream, again, is for everybody to be able to be afforded the right to attend these programs in the summer, no matter which one fits their needs, so that they can grow and thrive in our Springfield community. We need to grow our community. We need to keep our people here. We need them to be the best educated that they can be. So thank you, Molly, for all that you're doing.
Thank you. As Jennifer just said, it's really our dream to expand summer learning in Springfield so that all children who want to attend a high-quality, structured summer learning program can attend one. We have this growth chart that you can see the history of Camp Compass. We also have a hard copy in the back of the room. As you can see, when Camp Compass started back in 2013, we were extremely small and have been fortunate to grow over the years. Initially, we were a solely privately funded program, mainly by United Way of Central Illinois and the Community Foundation and individual donors. It was really with our partnership with District 186 that started in 2019 that we were able to combine efforts and grow and serve more kids. And then as you can see, starting in 2021, we really have been able to scale up due to that pandemic federal ESSER funding. So like we said, in 2024, we served the largest number of kids ever at Camp Compass, 924 kids across 7 locations. That ESSER funding has now expired as of September 30th, 2024. So the big question right now is how many kids will get to attend Camp Compass in our community next summer. The fact is, we are going to be turning away hundreds of children. At this current point in time, between the funding that District 186 is able to provide and the grant that we have from United Way of Central Illinois, we currently have enough funding for one site of about 150 kids. So again, without an influx of additional funding, there will be hundreds of children that Camp Compass is forced to turn away next summer. And the unfortunate reality is that there aren't other programs in our community who are going to be able to absorb the children that we are turning away. As Terrance mentioned, many of the other programs that were supported by District 186 and the ESSER funding, those are also going away. As far as the future of Camp Compass, we need to secure an additional $1.5 million to serve our goal of 750 campers across 5 sites next summer. We really need to secure this funding by January 31st of 2025 because on February 1st is when our program team will be enrolling children and hiring staff. We do want to let you know that some very generous donors from the A. Harvey Foundation have contributed a $1 million gift to seed an endowment fund for Camp Compass at the Community Foundation for the Land of Lincoln. So while we have an urgent fundraising need for Camp 2025, we are also looking to the longevity of sustaining Camp Compass in this community. We are open to hearing from all of you on ideas for solutions. You can tell we are passionate about educating all of the children and youth in our community. We have collaborations and partnerships. We care about all of the kids, and we know that summer learning has got to be part of the solution. Thank you.
I want to extend a special thank you to these 3. It's a real reality check when you hear people share this about the young people growing up in our community, and my first thought is what they don't know outside of our community. But many of us in this room don't know the severe differences we have. The children who are doing well, the children who will go on to be doctors, lawyers, and all those important things, and then the number of children that are just slipping through the crack. So the collaborations they have with so many programs in our community is very important, and we want to leave time for questions. Norm Sims has a microphone. If you would stand, introduce yourself, ask a question as opposed to a ramble, if you don't mind. But this is a wonderful opportunity with these three. If you have questions about our community and their programming, give us your best shot. Norm?
Is this hot? In the back. Yeah. Please, to remind you what you've just been told, stand, state your name, and please, we all have a little story within us we'd like to tell, but just limit yourself to a question, please. Yes.
Jane Ford, number one, I assume we're exploring state funding options. So what those might be. Number two, for those of us donors private donors who can't do $1 million, like the A.A. Harvey Foundation, how do we best direct so our money has the greatest impact?
Well done.
I think I'll address the state funding. State funding is generally federal flow-through dollars. So when we talk about Title I services for our students with low income, or IDEA, which is Individuals for Disabilities Act, that money is all federal money that flows through the state. The state has small seeds of opportunity that you can find from time to time and apply and be successful. It's always a competitive application process. I know some of you have read, and you specifically asked right before about what we were doing with the Boys and Girls Club, and 21st Century Funding is a great example of that. It's a federal fund. And I think that right now, thank you for having a picture of Miguel Cardona and his Defend Public Education shirt, but we know that we're in a little bit of a different phase right now with some unknowns about how public education is going to be funded or if it will change. And we're just kind of, yet again, riding another wave of let's just see what happens, not to get political one way or the other. It's just a reality I live in. It depends on who's in that seat as president, that it kind of guides how we flow with public education. So it's a wait and see time. The 21st Century Grant is billed as a 10-year grant when you first receive it, with 5 years up front, and then you can renew for the second 5 years if you've done all of your benchmark work and showed growth and provided all your reports. In that time where you're re-upping for the 5 years, it's just automatic. But then they always say after 10 years, you have to reapply for the grant again in its entirety. And I've talked to all the right people, so we're going to just wait. We've appealed those decisions where Boys and Girls Club and Urban League lost respectively, together combined about $3 million to serve our youth and after school. There was somebody who's interpreted it as 10 years and done. No more opportunity. Or there's some that say 10 years and reapply. Every state gets to set their rules. Every state is the judge of how that money is distributed. And I think Urban League and Boys and Girls Club got one message, and then some people changed, and then they got a second message. So it was a little bit weird that they were able to fill out the grant, able to submit the grant, told that they had no deficiencies on the grant whatsoever, submitted it in mid-August because there was quite a big rush for us to help them with all the numbers they needed, because they got the RFP. It was due like 3 weeks later. We're also gearing up for school, and they don't hear back until November. If it was an automatic kick out because 10 years and done, wouldn't they have gotten that like right away and said, sorry, you're not able to apply? There's some questions that we have. I don't like to cast stones. I know this is hard work. I know state board struggles with all the rules and regulations from the federal government, but that's exactly what happened, and I wanted to explain that publicly, that nobody did anything wrong. It's just one of those things where sometimes you have to learn with the answer's no, and we have to move forward.
Question to your right.
Hold on, can I address Jane's second question really quickly?
Oh, yeah, there was two in there.
Yes. It costs about $2,500 to sponsor one child to attend Camp Compass, or about $40,000 to sponsor an entire classroom at Camp Compass. And I do have some of my team here, if you want to raise your hand. We'd be happy to talk to anybody.
John Kierkestner, University of Illinois. Have you tried reaching to the families that aren't having the financial difficulties and encouraging them as far as the other 10,000 students not attending summer school? And have you tried, or could you try a program where it is paid for by the families and sort of a pay for your kid and one other for families that can basically double pay to include those extra students.
That's a great idea and something that we have considered. Camp Compass has always prioritized the low-income children and families, and so Camp Compass has always been free because of that. We're so committed to being barrier-free. Over the years, we have thought about, like, in order to make Camp Compass sustainable, we might need to move to a sliding scale model. I think what's really tough is the cost for Camp Compass is actually extremely expensive. You know, nationally, we're in line with everything, but it's $2,500 a kid, and it's expensive because we are hiring certified District 186 teachers and District 186 administrators. It's expensive because we are providing bus transportation and meals and every supply. So Camp Compass is not a cheap program, and it's because it's high quality and it's effective.
I will just state real quick, we have this wonderful rule called supplement and supplant. And it's something that when I went into this realm of my career, I was like, that doesn't make sense. And 11 years later, it still does not make sense. But the title, if we use Title I funding, we have to follow that rule. So we cannot supplant something that the district should be providing. We can only supplement. So if we use Title I dollars, then we can't pay for a student that doesn't have low-income status to then get that same program, because that would be supplanting, and that's a negative. That's the shortest version of a very long explanation, but we have to be careful of the interplay of federal funds and private funds when we do this work.
Another question to the right.
Jill Steiner, if summer learning loss is the barrier, what is the barrier to going to year-round school so there isn't a summer learning loss?
The barrier is financial on the district, to be quite honest. That means transportation full year for every student. That means teachers full year for every student. We would still have large gaps during time off. You're talking about electricity and all of the things that we do to run our buildings. And then you're also talking about one of the accountability pieces that we have with the state is attendance, and chronic absenteeism is probably our largest thing that we're combating after COVID. People got used to being able to stay at home. Brandy, you sneezed, so you need to be at home for 10 days. Families kind of didn't mind that sometimes, just stay at home, it's okay. But now we're back to full accountability measures, and we have to really think about the fact that a lot of families would just go ahead and go on vacation throughout that time and not follow all those rules and kind of stay. And there's a lot of families who don't want that. There's also a lot to say about burnout of students and staff and needing those breaks. So we don't see wild, successful, better scores at our two balanced calendars than we see at our other schools, too. The data has not really shown us that it's better than, it's just another model for, if that makes sense.
What is that number?
What do you mean, what number?
What is the cost difference?
Of year-round and not, there is a cost difference, and I can't throw it out right now in my head, but that's a whole nother topic for maybe another time. But year-round school is something that some people seek, some people don't. You have to think about the opportunities and the camps and the things that some of our students are able to go do that they wouldn't be able to do, athletics, all of the things that we kind of attach to summer. We also know that would have an impact on our economy with some of our pools and some of our other groups around our district as well. So we have to kind of think about the big picture as a community.
Well, and just to kind of add to that, as far as like with year-round schools, there still are breaks. They're just throughout the year. And so there still is even learning loss during those shorter breaks throughout the year. So again, you would need a program, an intervention to fill in those gaps as well.
And we provide tutoring and things like that through it, which is also a cost, because we know families. And food insecurity during that time would be something we would need to address in a large way as well.
Surely there's a question from this side of the house. No? Questions here? Ah.
Good Good morning. Thank you so much. Beverly Bunch. You mentioned truancy, and I think, after COVID, it's skyrocketed. And can you talk about what the district is doing, and then also to what extent the summer programs may be experiencing the same problem or perhaps helping improve the situation?
I actually think the summer programs help improve it. They don't get out of a routine, so much to your point of year-round schooling isn't a bad concept if everybody's on board, but you have to have a big community that's on board with that. But with the chronic truancy, we are trying to just educate. You see us do such a big press for our vision and hearing and our immunizations and physicals. That's a time of year when the state says, nope, no go. If you don't have these, you can't come to school, where our truancy just skyrockets. We have families that still either don't take care of that business, or they have a barrier for getting it done. And we're trying to do everything we can to partner in the community to make sure Terrance's family and community engagement does a lot for that.
Yeah, one of the things that we're doing is we're taking that on, we're hitting that head on. We're working right now just to build community awareness around this issue, because I think that I know that chronic absenteeism is not just the responsibility of the district, but it's the responsibility of the parents, it's the responsibility of you all. When you see kids out, not at school, you can ask those questions. Why aren't you at school? There's no reason that our local businesses or businesses in general are employing kids to work late nights on school weeks or allowing them to work on school days. So it's not just a district issue, but it negatively impacts the district.
During COVID, you would drive up to a drive-through to get your food because you couldn't go in, and you'd see our students serving you knowing that they should have been online for the last 5 hours learning, and they weren't. So those are great examples of what we got used to, and now we need to break some of those barriers. But just real quick, chronic absenteeism is when you hit your 18th day, you're considered chronically absent. 18 days can be pretty easy to rack up if you take a family vacation and have some other days off for illness.
And we're in the process of starting a task force around chronic absenteeism, and you'll hear more about that in the new year. So we're going to take this issue and bring some light to it and come up with some ways to fix it or improve it.
Thank you again to our panel. Let's give them a round of applause. I think we all learned a lot today. There was a lot of good news, a lot of bad news, but it certainly gives us a lot to think about, and that's why we're here. So our next Citizens Club meeting will be on Friday, January 24, and that's at 8 a.m. right here. We have Hanson Engineering coming in to give us an update on the plans for the 3rd Street rail corridor after the rails are removed, as well as the 11th Street rail corridor. And we're very excited to bring this program to you. Hope you'll all mark that down on your calendars and invite all your friends to attend, because our goal is to move into the Peggy Ryder Theater next door. We want the crowd to be so big that we no longer fit into this space. So please bring people that haven't been here before. And I want to say a special thanks to our board. You don't know what all the work they're doing behind the scenes, but we couldn't make this happen without our board and all their help in putting these meetings together. So thank you. And with that, everyone have happy holidays, and we'll see you in January.